For decades, the sportsbook was the final stronghold of the gut feeling. But in the modern era, the locker room has been replaced by the laboratory. The era of pure intuition is ending, and in its place, a new breed of data-driven strategist is finding alpha in the noise.
I mean, one student even generated a massive $20,000 profit in a single year just using advanced predictive modeling. Are you ready to learn how to treat sports betting as a cold-blooded data problem? Let's dive in.
Section 1. The Death of Intuition.
Okay, so to really understand how the old-school gut feeling got systematically dismantled, we actually have to jump back in time a bit. Picture 1980s Las Vegas. The foundation was laid by this legendary syndicate known as the Computer Group. Pioneers like Michael Kent and Billy Walters, they completely stopped relying on just watching games and guessing. Instead, they used early statistical software to crunch massive amounts of data. They started uncovering mathematical advantages that the human odds makers literally couldn't see, making millions wagering on college sports by simply trusting the algorithm over the athlete.
And the leap in sophistication we've made since those 80s days is just wild. Traditional fan methods, they rely on super basic metrics, like, simply calculating win-loss percentages or just automatically betting on the home team because of some perceived home turf advantage. But modern statistical methods, they are on a whole other level. We're talking multivariate linear regression, ridge regression, even neural networks. These models assign exact, precise mathematical weights to variables like defensive efficiency or goal differentials, completely bypassing human bias.
And honestly, the results speak for themselves. Remember that student I mentioned who pulled in 20 grand? Well, by applying a ridge regression model specifically to NHL games, incorporating variables like goal differences and home advantage, that model achieved an absolutely incredible 60% prediction accuracy across the entire season. It completely blows those traditional fan logic methods out of the water.
Section 2. The AI Betting Toolkit.
Now, the good news is you don't need to be a hardcore Python developer to access these strategies today. The industry has totally shifted to highly sophisticated commercial software. If you were setting yourself up as a data-driven strategist right now, your toolkit would likely fall into these 4 buckets. First, AI prediction sites that actually generate their own match probabilities. Second, value bet finders that highlight mispriced odds. Third, sure bet scanners that find guaranteed arbitrage opportunities. And finally, odds comparison platforms to make sure you're always getting the best possible price. Let's actually break down the 2 most mathematically rigorous strategies here.
First up is arbitrage, often called the sure bet. This is, hands down, the most mathematically clean strategy in existence. It involves finding odds discrepancies across different bookmakers, like say Bet365 and Pinnacle, and placing a bet on every single possible outcome of a match. No matter who wins, you lock in a guaranteed risk-free profit. Sounds perfect, right? Well, the catch is those margins are incredibly tight. We're talking usually just 1 to 3%. So you need a massive bankroll and super high betting volume to actually make meaningful money.
Contrast that with positive EV, or value betting. Here, software like OddsJam or Rebel Betting doesn't ask you to build your own complicated probability model. Instead, they scan the entire market and compare everyday retail sportsbooks against a highly accurate Sharpe reference price. Whenever a retail bookmaker offers odds that imply a lower probability than the true Sharpe price, the tool flags it for you. You are essentially exploiting micro mispricings in the market to extract long-term mathematical value.
Okay, so here is the crucial point, and it's a bit of a harsh reality. This is definitely not some free money glitch. It's called the limit risk. Remember, sportsbooks are fundamentally businesses, right? And their risk teams aggressively monitor user accounts. If your betting patterns start showing sustained quantitative profitability, especially if you're hitting those arbitrage sure bets, your account is going to get severely restricted or just closed entirely. For the modern bettor, diversifying across multiple platforms is literally a matter of survival.
Section 3. Cracking sport-specific codes.
So having all the shiny tools is really only half the battle. You also have to know exactly what data to feed them. Because an algorithm perfectly built for the football pitch, it's going to fail spectacularly on the tennis court. Academic reviews show us that every single sport has its own unique mathematical heartbeat. In football, predictors like defensive efficiency and passing accuracy totally dominate. In cricket, it's this discrete mathematical battle of overs and wickets. Tennis outcomes? Heavily dictated by psychological momentum. And in basketball, mostly because of the grueling schedule and constant player rotations, the single most powerful predictor is actually just the recent win rate.
And the science of actually capturing these variables is evolving at warp speed. We've moved way beyond simple logistic regressions into deep ensemble learning and neural networks. But here's the really fascinating part. Just being accurate isn't enough anymore. If an AI tells a coach or a high-stakes bettor to make a totally counterintuitive move, they need to know why. The whole industry is now pivoting towards something called explainable AI, systems that don't just act as mysterious black boxes, but actually highlight the exact features driving the prediction.
Section 4. The social sentiment factor.
Which brings us to probably the wildest, most unpredictable variable currently being modeled in the lab right now, human psychology. Get this. To understand how public pressure actually impacts physical performance, researchers recently analyzed an astonishing 167,841 tweets. This massive dataset covered 512 different players across the English Premier League over the course of a whole year. They weren't just looking at the scorelines anymore, they were actually measuring the precise emotional temperature of the fans online.
All of this huge data feeds into a really sophisticated analytical framework known as the Tobias model. On one side, the pre-match model analyzes how the topics and general vibes discussed by fans before the whistle even blows might actually influence a player's physical performance. On the flip side, the post-match model tracks the feedback loop, how the player's actual performance on the field then shifts public emotion online afterwards. It's this continuous, bidirectional loop between virtual chatter and physical reality.
And the findings here are actually pretty shocking. I mean, you'd probably think that cheering a player on helps them win, right? But statistically, pre-match negative sentiment has a much stronger predictive power on a player's performance than positive praise. High public negativity and pressure online strongly correlate with a measurable drop in on-field performance metrics. Then, after the match, the public is highly reactive, just instantly shifting their emotional tone based on that final whistle.
It completely redefines what it means to actually have an edge. Every single pass, every tweet, every line movement, it's all being ingested by an algorithm somewhere. Which leaves us with a final, slightly provocative thought to wrap up this explainer. As you sit there, totally trusting your gut feeling on the weekend's big game, are you actually the one placing the bet? Or is your human intuition, your team loyalty, and your social media chatter just another variable being mathematically modeled by the house? Thanks for tuning into this explainer, and we'll catch you next time as we keep decoding the data around us.